Okay. We're good to go. All right. We will be receiving a presentation from our Department of Transportation. Panos, please go.
Good morning, Panos Kokas, Director of Transportation. I'm going to go over an overview of what the Department of Transportation does, what we do. Let's see, what did I put down? This doesn't seem to be working up and down. We're having some technical, oh, here it is, came in. Oh, sorry, it's a little slow. We have part one is going to show what we do. Let's see, this is again slowly. I need to go ahead. No, it's a different one that you have. Closing. And see if we can tap into the laptop. Hope we can do that.
Come on, Panos.
Who is?
Take 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
You good?
So sorry about the technical difficulties, guys. We'll be with it in just one moment.
Okay, hopefully we solve the issues with the computer. I have two-part presentation. The part one is going to show what we do. Who's doing it? Doesn't show it quite right on the screen. I'm missing part of it. You see part of it here is missing on the Zoom. Sorry? No, it's a part of the screen. You see the date? It's off the screen. You see, it should be part of the picture.
Are you showing it in PDF version or PowerPoint?
Oh, that's PowerPoint.
The PDF version, just run it through media.
Do the PDF. Too many animations. Yeah, that's the one. Click that one.
And it'll be a little different on the big screen TV up there, so just run through
Okay.
it.
I think that one photograph may have been messed up, so we'll go back. Sorry,
I like the roads.
who's that?
Can we mute everyone?
Can you view it? Can you see it?
I can see on
Yes.
my screen, yes.
We'll go through that. Anyway, sorry about the difficulties starting with it. Anyway, we have a two-part series, part one, part two. The part one says, what do we do, who's doing it, what is our workload, and how we pay for it, because it seems to be there are a lot of fallacies out there of the Department of Transportation have all the funds available to them. And the other part is disaster damage approval and repairs. First of all, we operate and maintain 692 miles of county roads. Those 692 miles are split in two. There are some federal aid roads, which is about 166 miles of those. That means they're eligible to receive federal funds. And about 526 miles of local roads, which means they cannot get any federal funds. They're just off limits. And of the total roads, we have about 462 miles of paved roads and 230 miles of non-paved roads that we maintain. We also have 101 bridges, 5,000 plus culverts. The Regional Transportation Planning Agency and the transit is also operated by, it's under the Department of Transportation. And of course, general aviation, where we have 5 airports. We live in a beautiful county, about 3,200 miles. That's fairly large. It's a beautiful area, nice mountains, clean air, lots of wildlife, including bears, beautiful rivers for fishing and so forth. And we have very nice seasons because in the wintertime we have nice snowy areas. And as you read in fairy tale books, people sit in their house under the crackling fire, enjoying the snow outside, drinking cocoa or tea. However, not all people do that. We have some very dedicated people who are out at 6 in the morning plowing the roads, making sure people can go back to school, go to work, and so forth. But plowing snow in Trinity County is not the same as plowing snow in Oklahoma or Iowa, where it's just snow. In our cases, we have to have trees removed before we plow the snow. And we have some courageous people who are out there at 6 in the morning removing the trees, plowing the snow, and making sure we are safe while they are putting themselves into danger. And as you can tell, a lot of our equipment, it's not that new. It's older and it breaks. Not necessarily from mechanical issues, but Mother Nature doesn't like what we do and they try to punish us by dropping trees on the equipment. Well, it isn't just snow that keeps us busy. We are also clearing other debris due to other storms. Like I said before, Mother Nature is sometimes not as nice to us. And as you can tell here, we have other storms, other events that they have taken place that our DOT crews have to put their life into danger and clear them. And if you can see the top right-hand corner where you see a large slide, that's Higham Palm Road. We put some K-rails, we thought we stabilized it, and as the load there is close to removing some stuff, material started to come down. So the people had to move. They had some warning. So there are disasters, there are workers, the first responders, just like law enforcement and fire put themselves into danger, so are DOT workers. We do not have the nice sirens and shiny trucks to show it, but we'd still go out and making sure people are safe. As you can tell, events happen all the time. They close roads, and we have to try to do our best to make sure people behind those roads are safe. The reason I'm putting this item that President Bush declared that public works workers are first responder is twofold. First, to let you know as board members that we need your help, because if we're classified by the state as first responders, our old equipment would be allowed to run. Right now, we cannot run a lot of our equipment due to my least favorite agency in the state called CARB, the California Air Resources Board. Anything that's older than 2014 has to be changed to a newer model vehicle. We barely have enough funds to operate, let alone buy new trucks, new graders, and so forth. So my request to you as board members, that you have more influence to the legislature than an engineer. Would you please, please, please let them know that CARB is killing us? Because if we cannot run vehicles that they're older than 2014, because we have to replace everything after 2028. January 1st, we have to replace a lot of our vehicles. They're not going to be allowed to run. And even though President Bush in 2003 declared that public works workers are first responders, I expected to get the same exemption as the first responders in law enforcement and fire. they're doing great work. They don't have to comply with the CARB requirements. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Fire and police, sheriff do not have to comply with the CARB requirements, but Public Works or DOT does. And we respond to emergencies the same way they are. So this is something that needs to be done sooner than later. In addition to just the on time or the initial response to disasters, we also go and repair the damage. As you can tell in those photographs, those are our crews repairing roads. What you're going to see on the lower right corner is we have a brand new paver. We got it 2 years ago. Why is this so important to Trinity County? We have a lot of small roads. They're in the middle of nowhere, so to speak. It's not nowhere, but far away. And we cannot get a contractor to come and pave those roads. It's not enough money. They're not going to come from Reading. And if we get someone who does parking lots, they usually do such a bad job that 3 months later, we have to repave the road because it's not as good. So we're able to purchase a paver, and we use this paver for several locations to repair areas that we could not repair before. So we're very grateful for that. Of course, we also do routine repairs, and here is repairing the road surface, replace road culverts, chip seal, and we've been doing chip sealing for every district, every other year or every year we try to chip seal as much as we can. And part of it is lack of funds, resources. The other parts that we do, we replace old bridges. We don't do that ourselves. We have contractors do it because the work is specialized and it's large in nature. What else do we do? We install pavement markings, provide engineering services to the county and the developers. We repair equipment, both heavy and light duty, and provide fuel for all county departments and some other public agencies that they're not part of the county. We provide transit services. We have 7 cutaway buses. We have 4 routes. Excuse me. Willow Creek, Reading, Hayfork, and Lewiston. What I'd like to tell you is that we provide free services to college students from Weaverville to Shasta College. Our first drop off is Shasta College. Our last pickup from Reading is Shasta College. We try to make sure that all students get to school as soon as possible. They can stay there as long as they can, and provide that for free because there's some state and federal funds available that we can dedicate that, and they can only be used for transit services. They cannot be used to pave roads or do anything else other than transit services. So if you or anybody else who's listening and they have a college student, they can put an application with our department and they can get free rides to Shasta College. So this is a service we provide, and we like to do that, and we're able to do that. And thanks to our planner, Sarah Saad, who was able to find those funds, and we're able to adjust them. So we can provide the services to all college students. So if they come from Hayfork to Douglas City, we can pick them up, and we can go straight to Shasta College. Free for all. We also have 5 general service airports, and those airports are used for fire services. Well, let's talk about what we are doing. We're maintaining roads. Well, this is a road in 1850. That's what the roads in Trinity County were. They're mule trails. They're nice areas through the mountains where the mules went back and forth. And then later on, they're able to improve them to make them wagon trails. And they look very, very nice. However, as time goes by, they decided to improve them, put some asphalt on them. And as a comparison, I thought, let's look what is the difference between city streets or state highways and county roads. It's a little different. Pialos complain, why are potholes on the county roads? When I go to Reading, there are no potholes. There are no potholes on 299. I say, yes, I know. But let's see what we have. We start with something like this at best. In the city, they're going to take about a whole bunch of the dirt that's unstable material, the topsoil, out. And they're going to replace it with about 18 to 36 inches or more of compacted base, good material that carries the weight. And then they will put from 4 inches to 12 inches of hot mix asphalt. It has to be hot, it has to be compacted right away. And what they do most of the time, they have closed conduit systems. They take the water that's coming in, especially in the cities, so it doesn't go on the road. Let's see what happens to the rural roads. We have a few loose inches of gravel at best, just like the picture that you see. And then because the gravel gets dusty, so say, let's put some oil or asphalt, and we call it a paved road. And that's a chip seal. And then that chip seal, it's not any thicker than little pocket knife that you see. This is a picture of Trinity County roads, and that pocket knife, it's about 1/4 of an inch. And that is our asphalt roads. And of course, we have to drain those roads. And we put drainage ditches, sometimes in one side, sometimes in both. And what happens to those drainage ditches? They get full of water, and the water stays there because there is no place to go. And water is not good for the road. So one of the things it does, it has its effects. It gives us something that's known as potholes. Well, why are we getting the potholes? Is just having the road there? No, we have traffic on it. And this chart came from federal highways back in early 2000. And if a car counts as one path, different size vehicles have different passes equivalent to the car. So if you look at the one that's class 9 where the arrow points, that's a typical 18-wheeler truck, a logging truck, a semi that you see down the road. That's about the equivalent damage on the road as 2,900 car trips. The initial estimate was close to 10,000 because I know the engineer who started those in Illinois, and yet the trucking industry lobbied before FHWA adopted it so it can be down to that. And as you can see, the pictures to the right show the shapes of our roads, what they look like. Why is that? Because remember, we have the thin roads with heavy traffic. We have 48 allocated positions, and below are critical vacancies. Deputy Director of Engineering, we have one. We have one vacant. We have 7 engineering positions. We only have 4 filled, 3 vacant. And those are very important. Road maintenance workers, we have 22 allocated, 15 filled, 17 vacancies. Actually, the vacancies should be 8 vacancies because 1 person just left. So we're out in the process of trying to hire somebody else. We have 7 bus drivers, transportation planners allocated. We have 5. We have 2 are required. And what are the vacancies show is that the vacant positions show is that we need those people to operate the way we should. The other thing that we do, we also provide administrative, county server, and engineering services for several other county departments, in addition to permitting private developments. We're the only engineers in the county with respect to private developments or anything else that needs engineering services or surveyor services, so they have to go through us. So those 4 people try to do most of that work. Let's look at our disasters with respect to the CIP construction. CIP, it's capital improvement plans. In other words, if I have to build something, as an engineer, I like to build things. Unfortunately, here I'm having to have a knee jerk to all the disaster damage, things that you don't expect. And those red spots show the typical location. I couldn't put every location on the map because there are many of them, but just an idea where they are, how many they are. And between 2016 to 2025, we have approximately 225 locations that need to be repaired due to damage. And those are not the capital improvement projects that most counties and cities do. And that's going to cost the county at least $150 million if they're done now. However, if they're done later, the change of value in money is going to be a lot higher. And of course, we have $41 million called as DM from FEMA, which means they're not eligible for funding from FEMA because they found some reason or another to say, oh, you cannot be funded. If you can see the green dots that just came into the map, the very, very few, those are our capital projects. Those are the projects we should be doing, like replacing bridges, doing some chip seals, replacing the asphalt due to age. But all the red dots are due to Mother Nature and Father Time. They don't like us. Each time something happens, they create an issue that we don't have any money. And here's a couple examples of some of the roads in South County. It's Ruth Zinnia, and we show the mileposts. Those are FEMA areas. They are roads that are not federally eligible for FHWA or federal money for routine repairs. However, they're federal money in FEMA. And FEMA said they're not eligible because they're due to deterioration rather than storm damage. And that's what I have to fight with. Not only me, but also all the engineers trying to get a paperwork back and forth. And we'll talk about my friends at FEMA a little later on, part 2. And it isn't just the storms that create issues on the roads. Remember, a road that's gravel reaches equilibrium. If it rains, if there's a storm, nothing is going to happen. However, if you disturb that equilibrium, if you remove the ditches, if you scratch the surface of the road one way or the other and take that armoring off, the next storm is going to create some issues, has the potential to have some issues. And this is a photograph of an area where the ditches are gone, the road surface has been, the armor has been interfered with, and we're having some issues. Let's see how we get funded. We talk about funding. Those are two graphs. They're not created by me. I copy them. I plagiarize them. The top graph with a circle, it shows who owns how many center line miles. And if we look at it correctly, the blue and the green, they're between the cities and the counties. That's about 85% of the asphalt in the state of California. Remember, we have to remember the 85%. The other part is the state highways, 9% center line miles. Okay, let's say we have a 6-lane road, becomes from 9% to maybe 20%, 25%. Still way lower than the 85%. And what happens to the gas taxes that they come in? Remember, the state is very, very generous. They own about 9% of the center line miles, and they get what? 64% of the funds. And the other 36% are going to cities and counties. Aren't they generous? And of course, between the cities and counties, we get 18% of the money. Well, when the counties get the money, how is that split? Well, they look at the county and say, how many miles do you have? Well, they said 692. Okay, you're going to get 692 over the overall miles that the state has. That percentage. And then we multiply that by 0.25. And then they look at how many registered vehicles you have in your county. Say you have, 15,000. Okay, let's see how many there total in the state. 35 million, whatever. Well, you're going to get that percentage. And then of that, 75 cents on the dollar. And all that money that you get through the gas taxes can only be spent for roads that are part of the approved maintained miles. Remember, we come to the board every May, the end of May, to get the approved miles. And then those approved miles are sent to the state to justify where we spend the money, because we have a couple nice young men come every fall to audit the department's books on behalf of the state controller to make sure that we do not spend any money where we're not supposed to. And if we look at the difference between the registered vehicles, just as an information, Los Angeles County has 7 million registered vehicles. Trinity County has 18,000. And that's why Los Angeles County gets more money than we do. If we look at the actual road budgets, because there are some misconceptions that we have all kinds of funds available. And we have two columns, one to the left and one to the right. The one to the left says how much money you expect to get. The one to the right says how much money we'd like to spend based on the damage or the repairs and so forth. And as you can tell, there is a deficit. No need to take pictures of that. You already have it in the PDF format, and I can send it to you. I prefer you kind of listen to my explanations, as I'm like every good teacher. I like to educate the people what we have and how we go about it. Again, when you have budgets or projections, what is your best guesstimate? So you try to guess a year ahead of the time what you're going to spend. And then if you're not quite there, you come to the board and try to find more money. We tried to do our best that we could. So as you can tell, in the areas that are red, it's the money that we give out, things I don't like to do. I rather collect them. So the first part, it's HUTA, forward receipts, the SRS, the Secure Rural Schools that we have not received. That's about $1.5 million that we get every year. And the first line on the top is, those are general operations. You can pay salaries, fuel, utilities, buy equipment, repair snow plows, plow snow, patch, stripe, signing, mowing, all the routine things that everybody else wants us to do. Come and fill the potholes, come and do this and that. That's discretionary money. Discretionary with respect to how to spend them for the roads. The rest of it, the second line, is the RMRA. That has restrictions on it. According to the state controller, we think we're going to get about $2.75 million. However, our needs for that, they're a little more than that. What can we do the RMRA? That means you have to have specific projects. I cannot go and fix potholes. I can fix a pothole if I have to chip seal that road. Chip seal, it's eligible for RMRA, but not fixing potholes, not plowing snow, not mowing, not clearing brush. If I have to pave and the brush is on the way, I can cut the brush just on that location where I'm going to pave or do chip seal. I have to justify which part of the road, where and how. Every year, we have to send to the state, to the California Transportation Commission, a list of projects, where they're going to be, how much money we're going to spend on it, when they're going to start, when they're going to finish. And in October of every year, we have to report to them what we have done and we have not done. That's the RMRA restriction. So that's about $5.5 million we expect to get. Actually, we have the need for about 6.26. Why is that? Because $1.6 million or 1.5, 1.6 million of us SRS we did not receive. That's why there is that damage. And then the blue one, it says only storm damage, which is going to repair a specific location, those 100 feet or 200 feet of damage that Mother Nature has created. And of course, through that, we have to have a declared emergency by the governor. Before we receive any money, we also have to have a declared emergency by the president to get FEMA money. The CDA money, it's something that the OES gives us, and that needs a declared emergency by the governor. If we want to get FEMA money, the emergency has to be also declared by the president because we're not eligible. So we need two declarations. They have different funding thresholds. I think CDA, it's 750,000 or something like that before the governor can declare emergency. That's what the damage has to be on property. However, when it comes to presidential damage, they're looking for that storm in that location to be 50 million or 60 million. So that's in the millions. So it has to be widespread damage before a president can declare emergency. Of course, those FEMA funds, they can only go through certain projects. They're going to pay us 75% of the cost, and the remaining 25% is going to be funded by Cal OES, about 75% of that, and then we still have to come up with 7.8% of local funds for those projects. But it isn't just that construction of the projects. I'll go farther down and let you know how that works, what part they're funding. And then we have the ER, which is federal highways. And, you know, federal highways is a lot easier to deal with than FEMA. Why is that? Because federal highways has engineers working on it. They know roads, understand roads. I'll go later on and tell you the FEMA process and what our issues are. And we have an ER projects, which is emergency reopening for federal highways. They will give us the money. However, they don't have the money available like FEMA does. They give it to us now. We call advanced construction. We use county funds, usually RMRA, that they're eligible. And then they'll pay us when the funds become available. They can be 1, 2, 3, up to 10 years. So if we were a bank, we could be making a lot of interest, having to work with projects like that. So as you can tell, we have a lot of constraints that we cannot go beyond. If they're difficult. Like you say, the devil is in the details, and devil seems to be all over the place. We also have the capital improvement projects. Those are competitive, non-discretionary funds. That means if I have to replace a bridge, that means I have to compete for that and say this bridge is in bad shape. Caltrans inspects every bridge every other year. They can tell us if it needs to be replaced. We apply for it, and you go through the whole process. It can take 4, 5, 6, 10 years to be replaced. We have a bridge in Hayfork that's 10 years in environmental analysis. 10 years trying to get through NEPA, another one of my favorite 4-letter words, along with FEMA. It is very, very difficult. They always want more and more data. As you can tell, this is the total road-related funds. And of course, in addition to the road, like we just showed in the upper 4, 5 lines, we have local transportation funds, and they can be used for transit only. Remember, that's all we can do. When I talk about we're running 4 bus routes, and there are free rides to Shasta College for students, that's what pays for their federal and state funds. And of course, we have the airports, and we have all the friendly pilots wanting more and more improvements to be done to the airports, and they are correct, and they have the need, but you only get $10,000 a year per airport. So if a gate breaks down and it's costing me $11,000 to replace it or to repair it, it looks like we're in a deficit. So again, we have to juggle our budgets up and down and see how we can do it the best. And what does it look like, road funding? Let's look at the graph that was put together in 2015 by the Department of Transportation. As you can tell, the blue line shows what's the miles traveled. And the red line, it shows the money. Up in 2005 and 6, they seem to be going along with each other. Then it made sense. The more people drive, the more money they give us. And then something happened known as efficient cars and electric vehicles. Well, if someone is driving a large pickup truck and going to Sacramento now, it's going to cost maybe $10, $12 in gas taxes. But if you're driving a Prius, it may cost only $2.50 in gas taxes. And if you're driving a Tesla, you're a freeloader. You're not paying any gas taxes because they're not charging the electric vehicles. Just the registration fee, $100, which is nothing. So they can drive all over the place, no road charge for it. So that shows our state of our regular operations and maintenance. Are there any questions for the first part of our routine operations and maintenance?
I have a few questions, if I may.
I'll be more than happy to answer them the best that I can.
Go right ahead, Carpenter Harris.
Regarding the positions that are allocated versus the positions that are filled, what is the biggest barrier in filling those positions that remain unfilled?
money.
Money for.
To why, two reasons. One, we have to pay the people to get them to have the funds available, because you can't hire somebody and say, oops, that grant got run out, you have to leave.
Okay.
One of it. The other, we have to be competitive. If you look at the salaries of our engineers compared to the ones in Reading or Shasta County or Caltrans or private industry,
Mhm.
would a young person come here to work for 30% less money? I know we have a beautiful country. Most people pay money to come here to camp, to fish and everything. They'll be here all the time.
Mhm.
However, they have expenses. And there is also a shortage of engineers. People
Okay.
rather work with computers, do electrical things, around watching the dirt or being the dirt and being the working with concrete.
So with that being said, do those same comments hold true for things like, I noticed there was some actual like road crew
Yes.
positions and then also like bus drivers and things like that. It's just having the money to
Money.
sustain the hourly wage for a full-time position and then also having our wages be competitive with other areas.
You're absolutely correct. It's a free market. People are going to go, if you sell your products, you're going to sell them to the highest person.
Right.
Or if you buy things, you're going to compare prices.
Understood.
The same thing as people go out. But first of all, we don't have the money to get them at the current rates to advertise. Because as I went through and showed what is our projected revenue and what we have to spend, we have a deficit between the two. We
Okay.
try to reconcile them. That means in order to reconcile them, you have to cut something out. What do you cut out? And especially if you look at those pictures through here, both of those pictures is something I don't like. The one to the right shows a grader going through the bridge. That means somebody has to maintain those facilities. They're constructed for wagons. They're old. Now we're getting a big piece of equipment going on. We haven't done anything. That's what's going. That's a best it can happen to something like that because no one got hurt.
Mhm.
The other part is we live in an area that rocks come down and we have to clear them, and that takes money. And it isn't. Those are discretionary funds. Remember the SRS, the Safe Rural Schools.
So that was my
And all
next
those-
question.
That's
is-
what we used to do that. FEMA is not going to pay us for that because there is not a declared storm. That road is not ER road, Federal Highways Road. And then, even then, there has to be a storm emergency declared. They're not going to declare it for one of those because they need to have a certain amount of money. The damage has to be a certain level.
Understood. My next question is just kind of, I know you may not have the exact numbers, but what is the dollar amount that we are out this year because Secure Rural Schools has not yet passed Congress?
Well, that's correct. Secure Route Schools give us a lot of money. That's about 37% of our operations budget.
Okay.
Remember, 37%. That's a large percentage point for operations. Why don't we have all the funds that we like to? Remember what we talked about. I'll go on an example later on to show you how much money we get, because I get a lot of comments from people that I'm paying a lot of gas taxes. Yes, you do. So do I. Why don't we get the money? Well, it's depending on the registered vehicles in the county. And as you drive around and you look, some vehicles are registered in Oregon or Nevada, and they're always sitting here and they parked here. They can register them cheaper in Oregon, but that doesn't count as a Trinity County vehicle, even though it stays overnight here.
Correct.
So they're paying gas taxes, but you're not getting the credit for it because they're registered in Oregon. Oregon doesn't get the money, but it gets split among the whole state based on the registered vehicles. That's 75%.
Yes. Okay. One more question quickly. Just out of curiosity, how successful have we been in the past? And if we haven't been, what could we do different to get dollars for roads that were severely damaged, say during wildfires? So I know like the road in Salyer that the excavator tracked up and tore up the road base, that's not been fixed. I'm assuming that because we didn't get reimbursement from the Forest Service on that. But what is in general, what is the reimbursement time if we are to get it? And then how often do we get dollars for compensation for damaged roads due to wildfire activity?
Well, we get very little of that. First of all, it has to be a declared emergency. We have to go through it. I'll go in the second portion a little more in detail, how we go getting money. It's going to be a little tedious. Sorry for delaying
Oh,
it, but
that's
I'm going
fine.
to answer that part. We're not very successful because FEMA, remember, it's an insurance agency.
Okay.
They're understaffed, under-resourced, and underfunded. So they're trying to do the best they can not to pay you. We have $41 million, like I showed the bigger picture of county map with all the projects, that they said those projects are ineligible. They can't get any money. Why? Because it is due to lack of maintenance. They seen crack sealing on the roads before the damage and said, oh, that road was in the hillside was failing. We said, no, we have roads in the flat that the asphalt cracks and you have to fill it. It has nothing to do with the stuff underneath.
Right.
Well, they're not. The other part with FEMA is when they send out inspectors, the people have no idea about the roads. I was talking to one person because they're temporary employees because FEMA fired a lot of people. So they hired contract employees. So he was from Pennsylvania. The mountains are beautiful. Yeah, it's nice. And have you worked on roads before? No, no, I used to be a bank teller and I retired and this is a part-time job. I can get with FEMA and I go and do inspections. What does a bank teller know about roads? And even if it's an engineer who works in Oklahoma in the flat area, they're great, they know that. But unless you have worked in the mountains and understand the hillside roads, you can't have an analysis and a judgment and tell them how it has to be done. Now, on the other hand, when you talk to Caltrans for roads that are eligible for federal funding regularly, own system roads, you talk to them, they understand it because they're engineers, they know roads, that's all they do. They also deal with us every day. We know who they are. They come here. And what is preventing them from giving us the okay? It's a paperwork, it's a NEPA, it's things beyond their control.
Understood.
So having roads on disaster damage that they're, most of our roads, local roads, that they're under the FEMA jurisdiction, it becomes very, very challenging to get the money through that. And remember, they're only paying 75%.
When they pay the 75%, is that through reimbursement or does that money ever come on the front side?
Reimbursement.
Okay, so we have
We
to
do
bear
the
the
work.
burden of the cost and then they determine, is the percentage ever less than 75%?
No, they give us
They give you
75%
70%.
of the actual cost, but
The actual cost after
not
the,
all costs.
pardon me?
Not all costs.
So the actual estimated cost.
No, the actual construction cost, but if you do anything out of the ordinary, for example, if you have a culvert that was 18
Right,
inches
and you
and
have
it was
to-
too small, and that's why it went over the road and it tore up and you need to put a 30-inch.
Right.
Well, if you put a 30-inch, FEMA is going to say, oh, no, 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 I can't fund you for that because it's a betterment. Well, it was substandard to begin with. Oh, no, it isn't. So they may not pay for the whole project.
Understood.
Now, federal highways, you go to tell them it's 18-inch culvert, they should go to 36. No problem. Why? They understand roads. They're engineers.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. I have, of the roads that are failing in terms of, slip outs from underneath the road base or roads failing on the upper side within, within historic fire scars, is it your opinion that those are, long-term negative impacts from fire scars where the root systems have decomposed and so what was, likely to be acting as natural retaining walls are now decomposed, and so those road systems are just failing due to topography and geological failures from the large scale wildfires?
Well, I've been trying to convince FEMA
Mm-hmm.
of the same reason. And not only me, but the two engineers who have, which they're great, they're doing excellent work, and every other county that has mountains. What we try to tell FEMA is that we have the trees sitting on the hillside,
Right.
having stable soil and everything else. The fire comes by, burns all those trees, and including the roots.
Correct.
What happens all of a sudden, those roots start decaying,
Right.
and we have a void where it used to be a root. Well, it's not enough to have the void. Then the water comes in,
Mhm.
and in the void, And as the water comes in and rains, it goes in the voids and all over, it starts taking the fines with it.
Mhm.
So the soil used to be tight like this with a tree and all the fines. Well, once you start washing the fines away because of the voids that you're having, big openings, well, just a granular material where they can't hold with each other because the glue is gone.
Correct.
So you start seeing failures where the roads were. Another part that's happening in the mountains is that we get water in the wintertime. There is no failure for the first 2 weeks. 3 weeks later, it freezes. When it freezes,
It
the
expands.
expands.
Mm.
So another week later, the hillside comes down. So you go to FEMA. The hillside came down. When? March 15th. Well, the last storm you had was in February. If it's not within 10 days of that storm, it's not eligible. It's not due to the storm. They don't want to understand. Sometimes legislation or rules have been written in such a way that I don't know for what reasons, but those are the difficulties that we always have. That storm was declared for February. Your damage happened in March. Well, yes, it's remnants. And the damage happened in March because the June before or 2 years before we had a fire and all those roots and the trees are gone. Now you have the additional weight of the dead tree without a root. So it creates more and more problems. We had a geotechnical engineer write a letter in one of our appeals. We just sent it today, last week. What happens? We spend a lot of time to justify things that's not reimbursable. Remember, FEMA will not pay us for it. The
Mhm.
only thing they'll pay us for is when we start doing construction after a certain time. But before you start doing construction, you have 3, 4 months, 6 months of work that's been done to justify that construction. And I'll go over it in the second part.
Sure. Thank you for your time.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I do. Okay, so you're saying that you're blaming FEMA for not coming through on some funds for maintenance, right? For lack of maintenance? That is the problem, is specifically up in District 5. And those maintenance issues are real. They are real. They have existed for a long time. And I agree with FEMA on their approach because we've seen the maintenance, lack of maintenance in our district in a huge way. That's our problem, is maintenance. We've been screaming maintenance for decades now. And so that's what's causing the bigger problems for you to get FEMA funds back to us in our disasters. That's what's happening. So how do you explain that to my constituents?
First of all, I disagree with you. It was lack of maintenance that created that storm damage. That has not been any of the assessments.
We're not talking
We
about,
may be disagreeing with it. No need to discuss it any further at this stage. However, our discretionary funds for maintenance are cut. I don't have the money to go out and spend. As I showed you in the earlier tables, how much money we have for 690 miles.
I don't want to hear how much money you think you have, but what I do want to hear is that this maintenance was not done. It is not our constituents' fault for that, and we are suffering from that, and we still suffer from that. And when you came up to see our roads, you saw that. You saw that. I can't let you say that FEMA has been, it's all their fault. It's not. It's yours. In my opinion, you are the leader of the Department of Transportation for every district. And our district has suffered terribly for the last couple of decades. So I want you to explain to my constituents why that is.
Well, let's see what we can do. How do we keep the maintenance up since your constituents and you are having issues with it? Could you please?
Fill
let
the
me know what it will take?
potholes and grade the roads.
With what?
Could I interrupt for a second? Is any of this going to come up in your further
There'll be
presentation?
some of it to come up later
Well,
on.
if it
and the
won't,
other
we need
part
to get
is
to the bottom of
takes-
it right here and right now, because
I
this
don't
is
know
an
that this
issue.
is the appropriate
Well,
time for
this
to
is,
have this
this is the way they
conversation.
wanted to do that.
Presentation
Doing a
to give us
presentation.
information.
Let him get through that. take note of your questions. And then.
Since that's what
at the
we're
end
able
of
to
the
do.
Presentation, you will be happy to answer the questions.
Well,
And
that's true. If
online.
we can look at Humboldt County, I don't know if you looked at their regulations lately, they passed a new sales tax. They had to go to the state to increase the sales tax. And my friend, Mr. Matson, is going to get $25 million a year for roads in Humboldt County from that sales tax. In Trinity County, you get zero local funds.
I want to stop you right there. No sales tax. Let's get the money that we have and get our roads fixed. We have to ask people for more money
Hang on one
because,
second.
well,
We're
this is
out
a
of line.
conversation.
Hang on. It is a conversation, but it's not apples to apples here. This is not.
Well, he's talking about Humboldt money, but we're not talking about Humboldt money. We're talking about Trinity County money right here.
But he's talking about how Humboldt County gets X and we don't because of our situation. So we're not printing
But we
money.
don't have the same population, so a sales tax isn't going to do us any good. We won't have enough money from a sales tax to do our roads, and they're not geared specifically
What would you
for.
like Panos to do?
Well, I want him to find the money to do our maintenance.
There is no.
Excuse
Wait a
me.
minute.
Excuse
Wait
me.
a minute.
Nowhere
Hang
in
on one
business
second,
school,
Panos.
nowhere in
Panos.
business schools taught me how to
Panos.
find money through.
One
through
second,
there.
1 second, Julia, Panos. You don't just find money when we have none. We have
Listen,
a
we're
bu-
talking
hang on
about
a second,
potholes
hang
and
on a second,
grading.
Julia.
Okay?
There is no money to be found. We are negative. Our budget's coming up. We've already looked at some of it. So we're at a deficit. So say you had,
You don't have to explain.
hang on one
what-
second. Say you had $2,000 in the bank and you needed $5,000 and you had no way to get any more money. How would you like to get that money? But you have no other way to get it and you're actually losing money as you go forward.
Okay, I will answer that question to you. The general fund has some money, so discretionary funds. We are talking about potholes and grading, and we're not talking about paving. We're talking about very inexpensive. You have the crew, you have the rock, all you need is the oil. And you can't come over there and do that. It doesn't make any sense to our constituents. And they pay a lot of taxes. Timber taxes are paid every year. Where does that money go?
We all pay taxes.
Right.
Let me just ask this question too, Panos. I don't know if it's coming up in your presentation. Of the 5 districts that we have, what percentage of this tax money, the base of this tax money goes to each district, if you know?
I will go through it. I have a slide put in
Okay.
for that. I thought
fine.
there would be some issues.
We
So
can
we'll
leave
go
it at
through
that.
it if you bear with me. But
Absolutely.
any questions on the first part other than disputing what I just said?
No, we're
No,
good
sir.
so far.
Please continue.
Supervisor
I can
Lublin?
continue on the second part. Great. Well, as you can tell, Mother Nature and Father Time together, they're creating issues for us. We'll go through the disaster damage approval and repairs. What does it take? We have approximately from 2016 to 2025, 225 sites, $150 million or more that needs to be repaired. Then, of course, 41 million of that is not going to be approved by FEMA. We're fighting with them, but they might as well speed against the wind. I'll have a lot better luck getting something done. This is a photograph that I just received recently. This is a LiDAR data obtained from NOAA after the recent fires. This is the area in blue that you see inside the picture. It's Ruth Zinnia 18.75. This is the area that we are repairing a slide due to storm damage. As you can tell, those large areas are known as landslides. So the roads in that area, we went way, way up with a geotech. So as far as we could work, we could see fissures on the road, things are opening, the mountain is moving. So they did not have those pictures before because the area was full of vegetation. They couldn't see certain things. And the geotech only took that photograph, looked at that area just in that mountain. But from what we're told, it's the whole South County is moving. So it doesn't matter what I do or anybody else does. When you have the whole mountain moving like that, anything you do is not going to stay there forever. This is something, again, it just became available to us in the last 2 weeks. So
Are you saying the LiDAR just became?
the LiDAR, we got this map available. I mean, that's when we've seen it. They took the map after the LiDAR radar after the fire, because when the fire burned everything, they're able to see the surface and they're able to see where fissures or landslides and so forth. And they take time lapse pictures. So they see things are staying in the same place or not. So if there is a landslide and there is any type of water on it, snow, is susceptible to slide. So
Interesting.
as you can tell, our roads are going through this area. Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Mhm.
You see the roads going through here? This is
do.
the area that we didn't know repairs. And again, it goes through here. And it can be through the whole mountain. They just took a picture of where our project was because we had problems. Why can't we stabilize the road uphill? Why is happening? We walked uphill about 2,000 feet and you could see cracks into the soil. I mean, this is not what it should be like. As you walk through, there are cracks and they kept on going up. And then the geotech went to NOAA, they found those maps, they researched, and they know more than I do. And they said the whole mountain is sliding. The whole area is sliding. So it's like trying to build a castle in the sand. So regardless of what we're doing, there is not much you can do. You can't go against nature. I'm not saying give up, but then you have to set our expectations, what is possible.
Thank you. Great explanation.
I'm sorry?
Thank you. Thank you.
Then, of course, we have other landslides, as you can tell. This looks like of our recent picture. High and Palm Road, that was not during a storm. That was late in March, after the storms. But all of a sudden, we see material come down. And what have we done? We removed the material and we put K-rails on the road right through here. And we want to look at the slide, our crews are moving the material, making sure that we have one lane road. And yet, as one of our engineers was there with a drone, the slide started coming down. And he took pictures of the whole thing. And when it comes down, he doesn't care. It just comes straight down. The people who are working there, they just got the warning and they run. We're fortunate because if it's a large rock comes from the top and hits you, it doesn't have to be that large, maybe 2 feet in diameter, your car will be down the river because it's very steep in the other side of the road. So what are we going to do about this? As you can tell, in the yellow arrows show the existing High and Palm Road. You see where it is? Goes way down there, close to the river. This is a Google map, that picture that I took yesterday. Excuse me. I worked on it yesterday, and then we looked at how we can get around it because that landslide is going to come through. And the line in red that's on the top, it is part of a bypass road using Tule Creek Road and U.S. Forest Service Road 10. The highest elevation of that is about 4,500 feet. We're working with the Forest Service. We're going to use good neighbor money to help us clear the road, fill potholes, making sure the road is okay, brush it out of the way, because I have a feeling, and I'm hoping I'm wrong, that once the winter comes down here and starts raining, it won't take too much for that landslide to start coming down, being activated. So we'll keep that road open for the people in High and Palm.
So just a couple questions on that. If I look at the 3 arrows there, the High and Palm Road looks like it's coming out of Hayfork there.
Yes.
Is that mile marker 13 the first arrow to the right?
Oh, I don't know where it's 13
Okay.
exactly. This is
All right.
just something that I
And
took to
what-
show the overall.
Understandable.
13 is where the previous slide was. I can go back to that where the
Okay.
slide came down.
So what's the difference in elevation between those two? If you know, the red one, that more than likely is going to have to be used.
I don't know exactly. I have to put my cursor on it and I can find out, but at this stage, I
Yeah,
didn't
it
look at the
does, it
elevation.
does say 4,500.
4,500 is the highest peak on the red, but I don't know what is the existing one. So to be the elevation difference between the existing road and the old road. What Forest Service Road 10 is, it's a very, very narrow road. Ron Hanover and I went and looked at it through Google Maps through the whole thing. And it is narrow, it's curvy, it's going up and down the hill. So they have to repair that now. So in the wintertime, we may have to open that for those people from Hampton to get in and out for emergencies. Because if the slide comes down in the winter, we
Yeah.
may not be able to start removing materials if it keeps on coming down. We can only do so much.
So I kind of know that bypass road that you're talking about here. In the winter, I think that could get 3, 4, 6 feet of snow.
I was told up to 6 feet of snow. So we're trying to make sure that our equipment is ready and we can plow that.
That would seem to be awful burdensome. I know you have to do it, but that is a lot. I mean, that snows there all the time. It's
Remember what money we're using for that? That's the discretionary funds. It's not our MRA. It's not a CIP.
understandable.
We can only use the money we can fill potholes in.
No,
We can use the money that we can do grading. It's the money that we can do general maintenance. That's what we have to use.
And can we use our good friend?
That's what he said, we're gonna use.
We're
Good
using Good
Neighbor
Neighbor
Authority.
for
Yeah.
part of it, not for plowing,
Understandable.
only
Gotcha.
for the repairs. So the repairs that we're going to go on the road, grading, putting some grindings in bad areas, we're going to use a Good Neighbor agreement money. We do
Mhm.
not have any money to use county money. So that's going to be the Forest Service money. Because it's a Forest Service road, we're going to use that. They're going to pay for all of our labor, materials, and whatever we do. So it will not cost anything the county. So we're very, very grateful for the Forest Service allowing us only to use that road, but also to use those funds to improve that road.
Thank you.
We talked about the FEMA process, and here I'm going to show you a slide, what does it take? As you can tell, there is writing that's highlighted in yellow. This came from the FEMA guidebook, what does it take, what is the processes. There is a storm event, natural disaster, fire, and everything else. I'm not going to read the whole thing, so please don't get all scared. If there is an initial damage, we don't get reimbursed, but whatever it's in yellow, all the engineers have to do. I'll give you a slide so you can read them at your own time. And then it has to be a joint preliminary assessment with FEMA. And again, this is where they tour the sites, and they come and tour the site. And then 6 weeks later, we get another group saying, oh, can we go look at the sites? We looked at them 6 weeks ago. I don't have the data. So you have another group of people. So we go through there. No reimbursement. We're using discretionary money to pay the engineers or anybody else who has to go there. So, and then it's a disaster declaration, because if we don't go and look at everything and we don't have the data and the declaration comes by, we have no information to give them. So we have to make sure we have the information after each storm and declare an emergency ourselves, hoping that the president is going to declare an emergency. If we don't declare it and the president declares it, we're out of luck. So we have to hedge our fund. So we have to declare it ourselves first. Go and look at the information. Come up with a number, how much money cost the damage. Remember, discretionary funds go through that. And then if there's the public assistance programs, it's going to be FEMA or federal highways, depending where the damage is. If the road is the damage is on a local road, it's going to be FEMA. If it's on a federal aid road, which means one of the 166 miles that they can get federal funds, then it will be FHWA process. So again, there is all those steps. We have to do all that work, and there is no reimbursement. I'm not going to.
When you, in the next 5 minutes, if there's a natural break coming up, we need to use the restroom.
We can have a break right now, and you can continue from here.
Okay, we'll come back at, how about 20 after?
Perfect, thank you.
Good?
Yes, thank
We're all
you.
good?
time for public comment, right?
No, we're not taking public comment
Have to.
on this one.
And this is like public comment only. They go
Yes. Panelists, please continue. Thank you.
Okay, here we stopped at this point. As you can see, items 4, 5, and 6, all those are items that we have to do. However, there is no reimbursement from FEMA. This is something that we have to do. I don't know if I explained it earlier. If an event occurs, we go out and look for any potential damage. Once we find the damage, we have to report it within 10 days. Cal OES takes all that data, brings it to the governor or sends it to the president for its eventual declaration. If we miss that 10-day window to declare an emergency or for us to record it, then if an emergency is declared by the governor or the president, that site is not going to be eligible to receive funds. So have to make sure any site that's potential damage, we have to go and look at them. There are many times that we don't see sites because they're in the mountains under snow, and we won't see it until the snow is gone, or we can't get to them due to the snow in some local roads. So those are some of the constraints. Again, I'm going to go over those slides fairly fast. I have them here for, why is this moving? And here are some more items we have to do. The items in yellow describe the process, how long is it going to take? And again, no reimbursement, no reimbursement. We go hazard mitigation proposals, no reimbursement on that. And then we go to project worksheet formulation. This is what, based on the assessment damage, what are the mitigation needs, eligible work, and so forth. And we start getting reimbursed. However, if we reach at this point and FEMA says this site is not eligible for repairs, then we don't get reimbursed. So have to make sure we get through that process. Again, no reimbursement if the project is denied. Again, the yellow part is what we have to do, what constraints we encounter each time. And again, this is the project. What's happening with FEMA, and I'm not going to try to complain that they're a bad agency, they're not. They have fewer resources than they did in the past. Staff became strained, and they resort to contract staff who lack the cohesion and specialized training to meet the local needs. And for a long time, FEMA has been underfunded, unprepared, and overextended. We're having issues with them. It's not because they want those issues. It's just beyond their control. They don't have the people, they don't have the money, and there is more damage than their resources available to take care of it. The other process is if it is federal highways, FHWA. Those are the main roads. Again, we have the disaster declaration, the damage reporting, and so forth. And reimbursement starts fairly early with them. Again, federal highways, we go through Caltrans. Federal highways has a contract with each state, and the state has a contract with each agency, each city and county. So we go through Caltrans. They are our conduit to federal highways. Like I said earlier, they're engineers. They know roads. We know them. They understand. District 2 understands mountains very well. So as you go through, it's much easier to get through the approvals. And of course, if there is any options of how to do things, we're not constrained like FEMA says, no, you can only replace what was there. Caltrans will approve the best feasible repair option. In other words, if it failed because it was put in the wrong way, they will allow us to use a different method so it does not fail next time. Does that make sense? So we have a lot more leeway. Federal Highways does not have available funding just like FEMA does because FEMA, remember, it's a disaster agency. They get disaster funding, a lot of money for it. Federal Highways does not. They get very little disaster-related funding. So what we do is we ask to do advanced construction, meaning they'll tell us, it's okay, yeah, you're going to be funded for $10 million. However, the money may not be available for the next 3 years. So you can't wait not to fix it until then. So you use local money, you repair it, and then they'll pay you. If we said it's going to cost 10 million and it costs 11, they'll pay us for that. About 88% of what the cost of the repairs are. And the rest of it, again, has to be local matching funds. Local matching funds, in this case, we can use RMRA. Remember, RMRA restricted to projects, chip seals, overlays, replacing culverts, but not potholes. Our discretionary funds are the ones we can plow snow, we can fill pothole and so forth. If we use the summertime, all the money that we have, the discretionary funds, to fill potholes and do grindings and so forth, then we have a big snowstorm, we have no funds to plow snow. What are we going to do? Tell people, sorry, no money, you can't do it. I don't think any of our road workers, which they're excellent, they do a great job, they're very dedicated and very fortunate to have them, are going to say, yes, we're going to plow snow this week without any pay because we've been, I don't think they're going to do that. So, and it's not that road workers are excellent, very dedicated, so are our accounting personnel. Without them, I don't know how we'd be able to function. We have annual audits by the state controller. They have no findings. Everything comes straight through. We have audits by Caltrans for federal projects, and they're very, very strict and detailed. We have no findings. Everything comes through. Anytime they give us money, they have the right to come by unannounced, tell us a week before, next week, I want to see such and such projects. Let's go through the files. So have to go through that and have to be prepared. And they're very nice. They'll let us go down to Reading, to their headquarters office. We don't have to go to Sacramento. And again, like I said, FHWA pays for about 88% of the project. The rest of it is going to come through the county. The next slide is going to say questions, but I think I have a couple more to go before I go to the questions. This is a recent photograph of two pieces of equipment. As you can tell, the low paver we have, as I said earlier, we could not pave a lot of the roads in the past because we could not get a contractor to come by and pave someplace for a small project, 200 feet or 300 feet, or even 1,000 feet. It's not enough money for them, especially that far. So we have our own paver, and many, many times we have repair sites that they're small, they're 200 feet, 300 feet. There's no way to get a contractor up. Well, we have the little paver, it's small, it can go any place. We can go and pave those roads. The other part that you see is this is a hot patch truck. It's that box, it's heated with propane. So when you go to Reading to get asphalt, it takes us 3 hours to go to the Ruth Zinnia Airport as we are right now to repair that. And it kept the asphalt at 300 degrees. So when it goes out, it goes down well, and the patch is going to last for about 15 years versus 3 months or 2 years. Again, there are two things, it's temperature and compaction that are critical. And if you don't do it right, you're wasting your money, you may not as well do it.
We just purchased that recently.
Yes.
Correct.
Well, we purchased it 2 years ago, it just got delivered.
Well, yeah.
It's, and you can't rent those. There's no rental places going to have those hot patch trucks, nor the small asphalt, because contractors are not getting them. Most agencies have their own. And we're very, very fortunate. And I'm going to go through past this one. And I had some nice graphics here, but well, let's see what's happening with the gas tax distribution. People talk about all the money that we're getting through gas taxes. Remember the diesel sales tax right here goes to intercity commuter rail, and the rest of it goes to transit. And then the diesel truck goes to trade corridors. That's I-5, I-80. And then the rest of it goes to the RMRA back in here, where along with the gas tax goes in. And then 400 million goes to the bridges, 200 million goes to self-help counties. A self-help county, it's the one that has a sales tax to use for road repairs. So they get an advantage for that. And then the rest of it goes to the rest of us. And then let's look at this slide.
We go back just one second. I just wanted to ask a question on that. So if you have a county that has a tax for roads,
Yes,
200 million is the max that they will give? or
No, no.
that
200 million, it's available for counties to compete,
All of them.
all of them,
Gotcha. Thank you.
all of them to compete.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are not given to you.
I did not
They're
know.
competitive.
Fair
What
enough.
projects are you going to do? And if you have to compete, they're going to say, okay, I'm going to fix this road that's going to go between Humboldt County and Trinity County. It's a major trade corridor. Well, they're going to say 299 and 36 are there. You're not getting any money. But if it's a road that goes north and south, someplace where Caltrans doesn't have a road, and gets two major areas connected together, business centers, they say, oh, sure. And they're looking at the traffic known as ADTs, average daily travel. So if we have 150 vehicles going a road and Shasta County has one that has 2,000, we don't have a chance. They're looking at where is the most benefit. That's how they look at it.
Man.
Again, it's good. Remember, the legislature sets the regulations. Now, the legislature is comprised of elected officials from certain locations. Trinity County, Shasta County, Humboldt County, they tend to have one senator. LA County has about 15, 20. So San Francisco and the Bay Area has 10, 15. So when they get together, they each try to take care of their constituents. So it's a majority vote. So who ends with the goods? So this is something that most people do not seem to understand. They think it's a fair game. No, this is a formula. And it is fair from their perspective because the majority of the people pay the taxes. They should get most of the benefits. Let's look at this rough chart I did. It's not exactly to the most detailed there is, but that's what the legislation is said. Let's look at Trinity County miles. We have 692 miles. Can you see that? So the county portion of the total state miles, it's 0.01059 because the total miles for all the California counties on the same column, it's 65,000 miles with all the counties. So the Trinity County portion, it's the TC portion on the column back here. Let's see if I can move this. The Trinity County portion, it's only 0.015 of the total miles. We also have 18,347 vehicles. The total state has 33 million. And this is the latest data from the state controller's office. They have all the data. That's how they set the formula. Well, our portion for that, for the vehicles, it's much smaller than our mileage. Remember, our mileage is only 1 0 before the 1. With respect to the vehicles, we have 3 zeros. Smaller percentage yet, isn't it? That's a multiplier. And the way they have set it up is it's 25% of the miles. The one that they're very higher at between the two, it's 25%. And the one that they're the lowest at 0.045, as you can see, it's 75%. What does that tell me? That tells me that the formula has skewed, or not skewed, that's a wrong word. The formula has been set up to reward the people with more vehicles. So the more registered vehicles in your jurisdiction, the higher percentage of the pie goes to you, 75% of it. So if the state collected 5.5555 million, the reason I put that 5555, it's the number comes above it 1 million. So let's say the state collected for the year $5.5555 million in gas taxes. About 1 million goes to the counties. And based on the formula that we have up here, Trinity County, based on the miles, is going to get $2,600. And based on the registered vehicles, because a lot of them are registered in Oregon and Nevada and not here. We don't have that many registered vehicles. Then we're going to get $400 for that. It's about $3,000. That is our share. So it doesn't matter where you buy the gas in California. You buy it in LA, you buy it in Trinity County, it's irrelevant. So if people say, oh, I bought my gas in Trinity County, I should get a, no, doesn't work that way. It just goes to one pot through the Department of Finance, and they come and split it out. And about 4 months, 5 months after the month close, they do the analysis, and we get for that month a check. The other part is the diesel taxes. Look at the yellow part. This is the state only receives 25% of the diesel tax for road operations and maintenance. Remember on the previous graph, we showed that goes to transit, goes to the trade corridors, I-5, 80, and so forth, 101. So transit. So if we have the same formula for diesel. So if somebody tells me I paid $1,000 in taxes in Trinity County, which is the last column to the right on the bottom, only 250 of that goes to the road repairs right here. And then $45 of that is the county share. Remember, we have to share it between the state and the cities. And then about 13 cents of that comes to Trinity County. Those are the facts. That's how we get funded. And that is, my friend in Ventura County has 400 miles of roads, 290 miles less than we do. However, he has 900,000 registered vehicles. We get about $2.5 million a year from state gas taxes. He gets 30 million a year. Why? Because he has 900,000 registered vehicles in the county. And according to the legislature and the thought behind it, there are more people there, they pay more taxes, even though we have more miles. And our miles are in challenging areas, in mountains that they slide. They don't care. This is how you get paid.
So Panos, if I go to the upper slide there with the Trinity share of $3,058.93, you said we got that check monthly?
No, we get every month or so, we get gas tax money,
Okay,
you know, but not 3,000, that's for the year, you know, I mean, not for the year, sorry. Based on the amount of money that's available, and it fluctuates.
okay,
Remember, if people don't buy as much gas,
it's
we're
different,
not going to be,
sure,
it doesn't matter what the price of the gas is,
right,
it's by gallon. So in 1994, when they said initially the gas tax, the vehicle miles driven and the revenue, they're going together. But everybody's vehicle was making 10, 15 miles to a gallon at that time. I remember I had a vehicle that made 12. Right now I make 25. But there are other people who make vehicles who make 50 miles to a gallon. And they still go on the same roads. The damage is not any less than the other vehicle. And they have the electric one, so there's no gas tax on electricity. So they're not paying anything. So miles driven going up, which means tearing up of the roads. It's worse and worse and worse. The other part that we have to include is the construction costs. As time goes by, construction costs go up. Gas taxes have not gone up compared to the cost of living. So we have to do construction, let's say asphalt, it's oil, equipment, it's oil. Mining the rock or anything else, you're using oil, you're using equipment, everything is going up, prices go up. And yet, the revenue you receive doesn't go up the same way. And yet, we have to do the repairs. And the other part is happening, and I know it's politically incorrect, environmental regulations are on steroids. I've been doing this for 41 years. Well, I was a teenager when I started, so I'm not that old. But I remember the environmental process was very, very small. It took us about 2-3 hours to fill all the forms for the whole project, not only environmental, but everything else. Now it's taking me 6 months just working with forms, justifying this, justify that. If I don't do it, we don't get paid. We're not going to get the okay. Unless we get the okay and we spend money, we're not going to be reimbursed. So we have what Caltrans calls an E76 form. If I have to do the design of a project, I got the money allocated, I have to have a request for authorization. They send me an E76. They say, you can spend up to this amount for design. So I spend that amount for design, I can build them. If I don't get that form, anything I did before that, not reimbursable. They look at the dates very close. I'm ready to advertise. Oh, no, you're not, unless you get approval from Caltrans again. You're not going to be able to be reimbursed. So anyway, and here's my last slide, showing you what we are doing, how we work. And this came through our timesheets. If you want to know the truth, follow the money. Because our timesheets show where we have been, what we have been doing. This is the fiscal year 24-25 expenditure summary as we closed our books. And as you can tell, we have Board of Supervisor districts, and we have yards, and we have the cost that we spend the money. So the first line below the heading, the Weaverville crew works on districts 1 and 2 and part of 3 and 4. So they're not only working on Weaverville, they work on district 1, 2, and then parts on 3 and 4. And they spend about $3.1 million. Hayfork districts works on districts 3 and 4 and 5. Remember, Hayfork, it's between District 3, but goes into District 4, and it goes into District 5. It goes back and forth. The Ruth Yard does work on District 5 only. They're too far to go and help anybody else. And if we look at the amount of money we spend next to it, it shows that the Ruth Yard has the highest expenses, or the District 5. That includes the construction of the Ruth Senior Road by the contractor. So if you look at the percentage cost spent by districts, districts 1 and 2, the Weaverville Yard is about 40% of the money spent last year. The Hayfork Yard spent about 12% of the money, and the Ruth Yard spent 46% of the money. And then the cost per mile, it's showing on the column to the second one from the right. And the approximately percentage of miles that I worked on. So this is what we have done. This is our last report that we completed, so.
Does the board have any? I mean, that was eye-opening to me. I mean, I thought I knew a lot about that. Not so much.
My request, give me some more money, more people to get it done. It takes resources.
So
We don't
just a
have-
simple question, and it has nothing to do with Trinity County. Is the electric vehicle thing hurting LA where they have so much that they're now not able to, because we don't have a lot, and they have a ton?
It doesn't matter where the vehicle is at, because the money that is contributed for gas taxes goes to one pot to the state.
Mhm.
So electric vehicles hurt everybody. It doesn't matter where the electric vehicles are. Remember, everybody who pays their gas taxes, the money goes to Sacramento.
Yeah.
And then they look at it based on the formula that I showed you in the previous sheets, on your registered vehicles and the percentage of miles and so forth, and then they give it to you. So
It doesn't matter where
it doesn't matter where they are. But LA lost money, or they lost a lot of money.
That's what I'm getting at.
Oh, yes, they lost a lot. Every county lost the money. The more you get, the more you lose.
Yeah, no doubt. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah,
Supervisor
so
Waller.
I'd like to state a few things, and then you can clarify after all of them, if you would. So I want to address some of what I was hearing in earlier conversation. I think, first of all, it's important for us to be clear that you may be able to, with your team, pursue available funding outside of the county, and you do. but you just explained all the hoops that you have to go through and all the efforts that are underway. But if there is more money to be spent by you, that is because this board decides to give you more money. So when we say go find more money, it means board find more money to give to transportation. And please, let me just finish. I don't want to go back and forth. So that means that, again, I just think when we say go find more money in the general fund, that's us, not him. When we say, the roads are bad, we need to fix them, they're not being maintained. What I took from, because I got to sit through this presentation before when our CSAC president came up, the maintenance, when FEMA looks at a road and says they aren't maintained, they're thinking of roads that have the 20 inches of base and engineered and culverts and all these kinds of things, not the mule roads or trails that were expanded to dirt roads that were expanded to gravel roads, which are on the sides of mountains that do all this stuff. And so maintaining them is different, and FEMA still tries to apply all the same interpretation. So they say, oh, you didn't maintain, so we don't give you money. When in fact, if it had ever been built in that way, which we could never afford to build all of our roads in that way, then maintaining them would be a lot simpler and easier. Again, I would like to finish as you did, and then questions. I think it's important to note, I have someone in my district who has taken me out on the roads several times for several hours at a time to show me all the road damage, because he used to be the leader of a road crew. And he remembers the days when we had 100+ people and we had fields all over the place and we could do all this and the roads were kept really great. And I long for those days too. But the reality is the money that we used to get for all the various reasons that we've talked about, and maybe even some that we haven't, because of the forest and so forth, we just don't have the money. And so we have to prioritize. And so I was just out 2 weeks ago working on the front of my yard that meets Lewiston Road. I sent in some pictures. The road is crumbling at the very edges because the side's a little down, and I submitted them to the, so the portal can have them. But I know that's going to be very low on the priority because it's not looking like any of the pictures we just saw. But if you don't know, then you can't be in the system and we can't apply. So I just hope that we can realize that we have a Department of Transportation that, much like any department, can only do what they can do with the funds that we make available to them. And when we say don't talk about increasing the costs in taxes or anything else, then we have to say, then where are we taking money away from some other service we provide in the county to do that? Because if we already started this budget process with a $2 million deficit, we're trying to fix that. The only way to come up with more money to give to transportation so they can do more road work, which would be wonderful, is to take it away from somebody else. And we already have every single department in the county has unfunded positions. So that's my perspective on this. This is very informative. Again, the second time, maybe it sunk in even a little better than the first time. And I know it's troubling and it's frustrating. And I have people in my district who are just as concerned. I love what I see about the Good Neighbor Authority collaboration with the Forest Service, trying to come up with an innovative way to keep a community from being completely cut off. Even though I've made that drive once and it took a long time, I can't even imagine making it on that Forest Service road, but at least that's a way in and out for people to stay alive and access resources. But I appreciate the presentation. There's a lot of good information. You deal with a lot of red tape and you have to do the best you can with the money that we make available to you, and that you can get through, I would say, a no longer, if it ever was, well-designed set of regulations from the federal and state government. So that's now, anything you want to say, fine.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just moved my position. I was sitting there. But what happened here?
Do you have any more questions from the?
No,
board?
I'm going to reply to some
Yeah,
of the
We have
comments.
questions.
One of the parts about the damage on the cracks on the maintenance of FEMA, what I was trying to say is they look at the roads in the hillside and they see crack sealing on the asphalt cracks, we seal it. Well, the airports are flat, they don't have any slopes, they need to be sealed. So it's $2.99, and so every city street asphalt cracks as time goes by, if it's not compacted well enough. It has nothing to do with road underneath that FEMA claims we did not maintain. So they looked at the cracks that we sealed. So no, that's what I was trying to get earlier, and I didn't explain it quite right. The other part of it, you said, asked me to get extra money. Yeah, we are getting extra money even at this stage because there is federal grants that we can apply for. Even though we do not have the capacity to apply for them and get them, we're able to apply for about a $5.9 million HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program, funds for striping certain roads because, as you can tell, in the wintertime, when it's dark and it's raining, you know what is the white line. So as you drive on the road, you don't go off the road. You have to paint every year. And again, that comes from the discretionary funds, the general maintenance funds. I was able to get $5.9 million of federal funds through competitive process, and we're going to use a high visibility mastic that's going to go down on the road, and it's going to be good for about 5 or 6 years versus the 1 or 2 years visibility on the regular paint. So that's going to help save a lot of maintenance money because you don't have to paint some of the roads. Now, what you have to understand is that money can only go to certain roads that they are eligible for federal funds. It cannot go to every road, and you have to tell them ahead of the time which road it goes to, and they have a benefit cost analysis for that, and that has to be a certain number before you get the money, and we're able to get that money. So the edge crumbling of the road that you're talking about, I understand that. That means the shoulder, it dropped. If you go in and out of an area, it's going to destroy the pavement. That's why when people have driveways into a county road that it's paved, we like them to pave from the county road into the driveway, so as they're coming onto the road, it does not chew out the asphalt.
Yeah, and this
Like-
doesn't happen to be at a driveway, but.
It doesn't, but even if it's in the edge, as it goes, people get off the road quite a few times. The asphalt needs to have some support from the sides. That's why they have shoulders on the road. If you look on most freeways, they're going to have 3, 4, 5, 6 foot shoulder. And that shoulder where people don't drive on acts as a resistance to the load that comes in because asphalt is flexible. It's not like concrete.
You get your questions answered, Rick?
Mhm.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris, you have any questions?
No further questions at this time.
Supervisor-
Yep, I do. So I'm hearing you don't have any funds again. So as our department head, what are your answers for our problems in District 5 that are really bad? I know you guys all have bad problems, but you are responsible, and the CAO, and for our health and safety on our roads. So when I hear that and I go home and I say, well, they just don't have any funds. It's a safety issue for us. This isn't a paved road that we can't get school buses through. We can't get ambulances through. This is a real liability to the county at this point. And we've asked very nicely many times. So what do you say to, are you going to find the funds to fill the potholes? Are you going to, to me, I don't know what your men do every day. It'd be nice to have a time thing to see exactly where your crew goes every day and what they do, because I'd like to know exactly what they do. That's not an answer for me, and I won't quit until we find out where we pull money to do potholes. The things we're asking for are not paving. They are make roads safe. So I want to know from you what your plan will be, because you've given us a plan, a sheet with the things that you were going to do but haven't done them. So are we going to get our roads in a safe position? I'm really not accepting the answers of money right now. I mean, there are funds. I've seen them in the general fund. I've seen them, wasted on different things. And to me, I'm fighting for our safety, not for special things in the county, that services that we'll never see, just our roads. You are the man that I need to help us.
So Chair, if I may, I just
Go.
I just
I-
caution us, I think this is
I have the
this is
same-
verging on inappropriate because
So-
he is not
He's
in a
pres-
position to obtain more funds. We, this board, is in a position to authorize more funds. So we need to stop putting the blame on somebody else. We can reallocate the funds and we just then have to take the blame for some other department that we underfund. But but we can't keep beating up our department heads who are doing the best they can with what we are giving them and asking them to do something they legally and physically and logistically cannot
But
do.
wait a minute, many of those things that we're asking them to do don't cost any money. I'm asking the department because we live it every day. I'm not saying this just for my health. I live those roads every day and they've already have the crew. They have the rock. All they need is the oil. What is stopping you from filling the potholes that are gonna have our people swerve around and hit somebody? Okay, those are the things. It isn't about, he has the funds to do that. He's choosing to use his funds somewhere else.
So what happens when
And
we
so-
don't have enough discretionary funds to help out all he
Well-
can do? Hang on one
Okay,
second.
yep, I'm listening.
So you would say go into general fund, take out some
Mhm.
discretionary funds. So then we get the sheriff department in here saying, hey, you just took away safety from the people. More people could die because we just took away something from them. Someone else is gonna come in and say, hey, you know, we just took away something very important to them for for your potholes, your roads, whatever it might be. As I look down here and you get about half of the percentage cost.
Okay, you said
And-
that, so I
annually.
need to respond to that. That money, okay, the amount of money is ridiculous that was spent on some of those fixes that the maintenance created, and then they had to redo because maintenance didn't. So the money is irrelevant to me. I know how it's not spent right sometimes,
Yeah,
okay?
1 second. The
So-
money is the most relevant thing.
It is, and it's where it's going. It's the priority of where that money is going, salaries or whatever it
So-
is.
I-
but
I- I
we
will-
are-
I will just say this, Julia. You are a supervisor of less than 1 year. How long have you been in the road business? And I did give you
Okay.
the Engineer of California Award 2 years ago.
Yes.
I got the feeling you got the drift here, how good you're doing and what you're doing.
I'm.
Liam, I'm
it's been
telling
about
you,
41 years, like I
Our
said
roads are-
earlier, but I
Understandable.
started
So-
very
you've
young.
ridden our roads.
With that being said, I would not want to ever doubt that you're not doing the best job for this whole county, that you know more than anybody.
I am
up
doubting
here.
that.
Hang on 1 second, that you know more than anybody sitting up here. And I know almost everybody that works for the road department. I've been here forever. I know them, they're friends, great people, doing everything they can and more. There is no discretional funds to come out of the general fund unless we're taking something away from something else, and then we'll be going through, why did you take away? We're risking health and safety of our citizens. Because we had to take a deputy sheriff off the street, which we don't have enough of. So it's not you just dip in and go, hey, give me some. You know, first of all, you're getting half of it. And they're doing all they can. There's no lack of wanting to doing it wrong.
There is a lack of, and there is a doing wrong.
I would doubt that.
The resources are, okay, this isn't an argument I really want to, but this is the
Then we'll
time to
stop-
do
we'll
it.
Stop with the argument
Well, we
now.
want putting it on record that I want public comment on this right
There
now
will be no
from
public
Zoom.
comment on this.
Why not?
Presentation, because I
You
just
have the
said so.
ability to
I
do
just
that.
said so. Hey, Julie, you're getting out of line, okay?
Am I?
Not having it. Anybody else have any comments?
I would just like to say, in terms of having an understanding of where the funds go and how they're utilized, you equally, along with us,
Me?
have had, Supervisor Brownfield has had the opportunity to review the department's budget.
Yes,
You will have the opportunity to review it again as a citizen when it comes out to the whole public. The public can see the way every single dime, dollar, and cent is spent on our roads department. So ignorance in that area is quite frankly on you. You need to look at that budget so
I
that you can
have.
understand, okay, well then why are you wondering where money's at?
wondering, I know, it's just, it's priority.
So with that said, I suggest, and maybe all of us need to do a deeper dive into that budget, but that's available. Everything is transparent in that budget process. I find it very, very hard to believe that our roads crews, maybe they're not always perfect, but I will not listen to anyone, whether they're a board member or a member of our community, degrade our staff and suggest that they are not appropriately managing and doing their jobs.
Wait a minute, I
And
did not do that.
so it was stated that there was a concern with the way they were doing the work and that they had to go back and have it redone again because there was an error in the way that they were doing it. We live in a tectonic region. We are within the Franciscan shear zone where roads fall consistently and always. 299 is under constant construction. It is the nature of the landscape where we live. It is a geological fact that our roads cannot and will not stay where we put them for an extended period of time. My family has lived here for 7 generations, and up every single one of those generations had to fight the roads. It's simply the way that it is. We are asking our county roads crew to hold mountains in place. It's not possible. It's not feasible. It's not financial. It's not even, there's no capacity to even engineer that. And so what I suggest is if you are concerned about where we may find more money, is take it upon yourself to look where some grants may be available. Call CSAC, RCRC, and even go to NACO and find out where money may be that we are missing. Instead of dividing to conquer, we need to work together. So take it upon yourself to go look for grants, find out where money may exist that maybe they haven't found yet, and offer that in a support, provide data, provide opportunity to work together. Please stop pressuring them when there is no money to give unless we take it from somewhere else. And your roads are not in any more damaged position than my roads, or Rick's, or Liam's, or
Yes,
even
they are.
Supervisor Cox. We are all suffering from this.
I agree with you, but what,
We're all good and we're done. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. This was very in detailed. If you have any questions, go ahead and dive into what you said.
I would like
and
public
take that
comment.
up. There will be no public comment today.
Okay,
That was
just
most
for the
in
record.
That was the most in detailed
That's for the record.
so long. If you can't pull whatever you want out of that, you can't pull it out of anything.
No, that's his opinion, but we live this, so
It's
we
my
know it.
opinion and I'm the chair of the board, so we're done. We're gonna move on now.
Noted.
And panelists, thank you very much for very detailed report. E2, thank you. You good there? Good to go? E2, adopt revised bylaws for the Tourism Development Advisory Board. Yeah.
So I am the one who in this case would present this matter. So we established the bylaws for the Tourism Development Advisory Board earlier this year to create a group that could do 2 things. One is to work on the Tourism Business Investment District, and the other was to take the role to evaluate tourism funding proposals that we received last year and had an outside group, outside the county even, evaluate. And since that time, a couple of things have evolved, and so that is the reason for the presentation of a change in the bylaws. And there's 2 primary factors. One is that we would add 2 staff members to the Tourism Development Advisory Board. That accomplishes 2 things. One, it increases the total number, so it allows for 1 more person to be on the ad hoc committees, and the ad hoc committee is the one that can more freely engage with the public to share information, take feedback, collaborate with Civitas advisors and so forth, and then bring things back to the full advisory board for discussion. It also allows for staff representation, and the 2 individuals that we've spoken about in the materials are one, people that collect revenues for us and help us expend them, and then also community development, so that we have the right people that are involved in that in part of our county as well. And then the other thing that I included in the proposed bylaws change is to remove the authority for this group to be decision makers on the allocation of funds that this board has historically provided via from the TOT funds. And I say loosely from the TOT funds, because the TOT funds go into the general fund. We have chosen in the past to take a amount of that and then allocate it to these various groups, the chambers and so forth. And what I'm proposing is that because several of the people on the advisory board are actually in the organizations that have received that money historically, that they are not the right ones to be involved in that process. And so I was putting forward the recommendation to form ad hoc committee that could, again, involve those members of staff and 2 board members, and that would then be the group that we could use to carry out that process. So with that, I can take questions and then you can go to your public comment.
Do we have any more questions from the board? Supervisor,
Sounds reasonable.
Fine, no problem.
we will send it to public comment in the room since it's not a presentation. On Zoom,
Lisa?
was there just one, Jen? Go over the second one.
Ben Kellogg?
Is the mic?
Is it us or them?
Can you-
For those of
can-
you who may be trying to speak, we can't hear you.
Can you
so-
hear, can you
Now
hear
we
me
can.
now?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you. Honorable Chair Gogan, Supervisors, and CAO Tuthill. My name's, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Lisa Harper, and among other things, I am the owner and manager of several vacation rental properties. Thank you for allowing me to comment on this matter. I continue to be opposed to the continued work to form a TBID and have provided comments in the past to the board and staff. The proposal initially asked vacation rental owners to pay an increased TOT of 3% up to about 10% or more in the future. Now, as proposed, the request is to remove lodging owners and revising bylaws with vacation rental owners to bear the entire burden. The ad hoc committee also asked for resources from our county office staff for the Tourism Development Advisory Board or ad hoc committee, further stretching the time employees have to do their own jobs. This entire process has created wasted funds without much success, and it is not how to implement an increase in TOT. I have personally yet to receive any information or a petition as promised from the ad hoc committee. I do not trust its transparency and legality, and respectfully ask that the county first educate its residents on TOT, create a registration program and database of vacation rental owners, and put the measure on the ballot, as this is the process towards increasing the percentage of TOT. All funds should be directed to the county's general fund and not to a failed ad hoc committee, which continues to change its purpose and framework. There are many more vacation rentals now identified and tracked by your current vendor, Deckard Technologies, which actually I recommended to the CAO. And I would ask that planning staff not work for this ad hoc committee, but instead work to form an initial application and annual registration fee program, development of rules for vacation rentals, including building inspections of actual rentals to ensure safety, mailing addresses, locations of rentals, phone numbers, and emails, which is currently out of date and lacking, resulting in lost TOT, and I'm familiar on how to do this. I believe it's wrong and unfair to ask county staff to supply resources for this dying matter, and just want to emphasize that those visiting the area want to get away from the Bay Area. They enjoy what we have to offer here. And I would personally volunteer my time to work with the county to research and create such a registration program and database, which will be legal, transparent, and ultimately help towards the goal of additional dollars from vacation rental owners, which should include lodging owners and all short-term rentals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we get the first one back on?
He was the first one.
Yeah, go
Good
ahead.
on the list here.
Ben Kellogg?
Good morning, Ben Kellogg, Weaverville. Yeah, we weren't able to unmute previously because the proceeding had us blocked from unmuting. Anyways, I agree with the previous caller. There's lots of other things that I think county staff can be working on. Even though I do think this is an important task, I question on whether or not we need to have county staff work on this when they have, I think, probably other priorities that are higher up. And then a question regarding the last transportation presentation. My understanding,
You can only comment on what we're talking about now, sir.
you didn't give the
This-
opportunity to do
this
so,
item-
however.
This item right now that's in front of you is what you need to talk about.
Optics are really bad on this. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Rhoda?
Hi, this is Rhoda Kane from Trinity Center. And while I feel like the first speaker especially had very well thought out argument, makes a lot of sense. I'm personally not opposed to a TOT tax. I would love to see some of the tourism dollars help support our county in that way. But I think it's just important for people to think about that there is an industry here in Trinity County right now that, if supported, could certainly bring a lot more money into our local budget. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Dana?
Can you hear us, Dana? Was this the one we weren't getting the first time around? Your hand went away. Then we'll consider it done. Is there any other ones?
I show no other raised hands.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. Board discussion.
Well, I will move that the matter be approved as presented.
I will second.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris?
Aye.
Supervisor Lutwiler?
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield?
No.
Supervisor Gogan?
Aye. So I have a question for you. If, I know this went 3-1, but if this was 2-2, how does that fall? If this was a 2-2, we're tied here.
It's a fail, so you have to have a majority in
Gotcha.
favor of it. So
Thank you
2-2
ve-
would be a fail.
Thank you very much. I want to make sure everybody was clear on that one. Okay, we will move on to the next item. Community development planning. Drew, welcome. How are you?
Good afternoon, Chair, Supervisors, Drew Glabani, Interim Planning Director. This item is a request for a budget adjustment. In fiscal year 24-25, the Planning Division budget was developed to include $75,000 to come in to the Planning Division from the SB2 grant. That was a grant opportunity from the California Department.
I don't believe you read the item.
One more time?
I cannot believe you read the item.
Okay, I read the item. It is item E3. Community development planning, approve budget adjustment for 24-25 for planning department 2,800, decreasing revenues by 103,474. Salary and benefits by 27,938. Services and supplies by 34,000 even. Interfund expenses by $400. and other charges by $1,020 and approve a budget adjustment for 24-25 for general fund contingency, Department 9901, decreasing provisions for contingency by $40,016.
Shall I start over or just pick up where I left off?
Pick up where you
Keep on going.
So the SB2 grant opportunity was an opportunity from the California Department of Housing and Community Development. And that was to support the planning process for housing development. I wasn't involved personally in the budget development for fiscal year 24-25. My assumption is that that task was slated to be completed by planning division staff as an internal process. Ultimately, those funds were utilized towards the, preparation and final adoption of the housing element as part of the general plan update. Additionally, we did see some other, minor changes to what was projected to be received and or expended in fiscal year 24-25. The biggest shortfall in terms of expected revenues, I would attribute to staff turnover and the inability to process as many projects as were projected. And I also want to add that there are approximately, at least as of 2 weeks ago when I ran the numbers, $25,000 in outstanding receivables for work incurred by the planning division in fiscal year 24-25. I'm happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris?
I have no questions. The material was out.
No
Supervisor
question.
Lutwiler?
No questions.
Thank you very much. So I would like to, and Drew, I'd like to direct the board to bring a discussion on to the Board of Supervisors.
No,
to-
next item.
Oh, sorry about that.
We need public. comment.
Do you
Okay.
have anyone
we're-
for public comment on that
We
item?
need public comment on this.
I show no raised hands.
In the room? My fault. We're good to go?
No public comment in the room, none online.
Or on Zoom, correct?
Correct.
Then we need to vote on
I will make a motion that we approve item E3 as presented.
I will second.
Oh, go ahead.
Supervisor Gogan?
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris?
Aye.
Supervisor Lutwiler?
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield?
Aye.
Okay, sorry about that, Drew. And company. E4, Community Development Planning. Discuss topics for upcoming community plan meetings and receive direction from the Board of Supervisors.
Good afternoon again, Chair, Supervisors, Drew Pavani, Interim Planning Director, Cannabis Division Director. A little bit of background. So during the June 10th and 11th joint meetings of the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission to review the general plan update, staff were directed to conduct another round of community plan workshops. You earlier today approved item D4, which approved the contract amendment to accomplish that goal in conjunction with the Mentor Harnish general plan team. So leading up to this, we scheduled a planning commission meeting for the August 14th planning commission. My intent there was perhaps overly lofty. I was hoping to accomplish sort of a twofold objective. One, to get some insight into the direction on outstanding cannabis ordinance update items and try to tie together, the wishes of the community as it relates to land uses with some of the potential future additions to cannabis ordinance updates. We had, I would say, a robust discussion at the Planning Commission. And we summarized that the topics, their recommendation to the board was that the topics that we should discuss at the upcoming community plan meetings are the following. Review and finalize the community vision statements. Present the 2050 general plan land use map and review the changes within each community with a specific focus on the village and unclassified zones. A discussion topic of what land uses would your community, would you like to promote or pursue? And what types of development would the communities like to see? And the example that I gave was related to mixed use / residential dwelling density. And that's something that we had identified in our internal discussions with Minter Harnish, that as it currently stands, the mixed use land use designation allowed for a dwelling density of 12 to 24 dwelling units per acre. And so it seems like that is not really appropriate for Trinity County, development. So where we landed on that was that likely there will be the potential of 2 or perhaps 3 mixed use zoning districts. So there would be like a mixed use low density that would allow 1 to 4 dwelling units per acre, as opposed to if we were to designate or redesignate parcels to a mixed use land use designation, rather than the dwelling unit density, the minimum being 12 dwelling units per acre, that we could then have a zoning district that would implement that mixed use designation with a lower dwelling unit per acre threshold. So I think, in the conversations, in the discussion at the Planning Commission and the conversations that I've had subsequent to that Planning Commission, it seems like in order to create consistency with the discussion topics across all of these communities for these upcoming community plan meetings, my recommendation to the board currently would be to go forward with something very much like what the Planning Commission recommended in terms of their discussion topics. If you read the backup, you would see that in the staff report for that Planning Commission item, I also listed a much longer list of potential topics for discussion at these community plan workshop meetings. But at this point, I think for simplicity and consistency's sake, that something very much like what the Planning Commission recommended would probably be the most appropriate and consistent. And then for my sort of twofold objective, which had no success at the Planning Commission, so all of the topics related to cannabis land uses that were identified there in that list, my suggestion and request is that the board agendize a future discussion item for us to dig into the outstanding issues related to cannabis ordinance updates as they relate to the overall process of moving zoning code forward. And, obviously that interrelates to the preparation of the EIR and finalizing the general plan and all of those concurrent tasks.
Thank you, and I apologize for jumping forward and getting to the next item ahead of schedule. Do we have any questions from the board?
I do. Sorry, I think you were trying to make my brain hurt earlier, but when you were going through that one example, but I think the net of what you're saying is that all these cannabis-related things that are in the backup material and that you were speaking to briefly, you're proposing that that actually does not be part of these upcoming community meetings and that we separately put something on the agenda to dig in on that. Did I take that right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that, the general prompt of what land uses would your community like to promote or pursue should give us the desired feedback from the various communities. And then when we bring back, the consolidated input from all of the community plan workshops, I think we'll have a better sense of, are there, specific community asks or, community asks that are quite distinct from asks from other communities. And that can give us, the information and the input that I think we were trying to elicit with a broader set of topics without, convoluting and confusing the matter too much, and then creating inconsistencies in terms of the prompts we were doing across all of the communities.
Okay, and so just the one example that I'm recalling from when we had those discussions, to me, an example that came from that was that if the county had a set of limitations or requirements about commercial cannabis cultivation generally, that a community like Post Mountain might want to say, well, we want a different set of standards related to that. And that's the overlay that we would like to create. And I think that was part of what led us to, well, we should probably have some more community meetings.
Yep.
Okay, so is that something you think still is within the scope of what you're recommending, so that that community in that particular example could weigh in on that in that way?
Yeah, so I think, ideally, the discussion that will be had and the exercises that the general plan team will take the various communities through in those workshops will give us good insight into the specific, desires of the communities. But we're kind of jumping around in terms of the order of operations,
Mhm.
and I think it's creating a lot of confusion. So until we know more broadly where the county wants to head with zoning code updates, we won't really understand if an overlay zone would accomplish anything, because we don't understand what the base ordinance would be that then could be modified through the use of an overlay zone. So my thinking currently is that, we just get the feedback, we have that information, we dig into the specific topics, and then we can correlate, oh, actually, if this is the direction of board on, let's say cultivation in RR, so to your Post Mountain example, then that might be the impetus to then start to figure out, okay, are we going to leverage the potential of establishing overlay zones to accomplish the desired economic development, land use activities that the specific communities wish to pursue?
Okay, so I'm taking it then that what we're really saying is, because we're not trying to get ahead of ourselves, we want these community plan meetings to inform us about what the communities have as goals and priorities and so on and so forth. And that will then allow us to feed into future decisions about things like this. But we're not trying to make these decisions through this process.
Right, that
Okay.
it's sort of out of order, right?
Yeah, yeah,
We-
okay.
We need to know where we're headed overall, zoning code update wise, and then we can tie that back together with the input and then see if there's value in going forward with the overlay zone concept for the specific communities.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris? And- You good? Public comment in the room? Sorry, did you not hear?
Excuse me?
Did you not hear me?
Yeah,
Sometimes I
Drew
don't
was
talk
just
into the.
leaving the stand.
Oh.
Okay, Lisa Wright Lewiston. Just a couple comments in terms of land use and any limitations that might be considered. I think that, we came to a consensus as a community at workshop that included Planning Commission and this body that cannabis cultivation is considered agriculture. So I think that we need to continue down that same vein. So when we're looking at, restricting land uses, there has to be really a justification, an environmental reason. We have an EIR that fully analyzes the impact or the potential impact of cannabis cultivation that we can lean on with mitigation measures. So the concept of, and I know we're not quite there yet, but it was quite extensive in the memo, is overlay zones, is that there's going to need to be environmental analysis as to why one particular type of agriculture, for example, might be excluded from an area in an overlay as opposed to a different type of agricultural use. So for example, I would be opposed to more development in Lewiston area of vineyards. I feel like, alcohol is bad. There's a lot of liver cirrhosis. There's a lot of drunk driver accidents, et cetera. But I can't let that drive the reality of, is it really impactful from an environmental perspective? So just to kind of caveat, if we're going to have this agriculture discussion, it needs to be all inclusive and broad in terms of general land uses. So I just wanted to make that comment publicly. I think it's a concern going into some of these community meetings that it could be taken in another vein. There needs to be that type of environmental analysis done. So for another example would be if you had an aquifer, which we don't here, but let's just say we did, like in Central Valley, where you could show that a concentration of cannabis operations might negatively impact that aquifer. You could put restrictions, say this is a protected area because of the use of water is excessive from that type of an industry. That would be a logical reason for an overlay that would be exclusionary. Inclusionary, I think that Post Mountain, for example, that the EIR does a very extensive job of analyzing already the impact of cannabis cultivation. So if they wanted to employ more, that we could justify it from an environmental impact perspective because it's been analyzed and each site is analyzed separately. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody on Zoom?
Trinity Alps Canicraft.
Hello, board, Matt Jefferson, Trinity Center. Pretty surprised to hear staff all of a sudden change their mind that all those cannabis specific discussion items shouldn't be in there. Most of what I would say about that, I think Lisa touched, very well said. I think it's highly inappropriate to be adding specific discussion topics into these community plans that are supposed to be broad explanations of what our community wants to see in the future, where these specific cannabis items are doing very specific restrictions. You know, it's just like this staff item in general, even though Drew wants to like tiptoe around what he actually wrote in, let's not forget that he was called out by the Planning Commission on where those specific items came from for discussion, because none of the Planning Commission asked for that. Drew's the only one that put in those cannabis specific discussion items. Now, why are those in there? The only reason those would be in there would be to further restrict tax-paying businesses. And that is all going to be addressed in the ordinance update. So then we look at our director of transportation begging for money, and you guys just allotted $50,000 to put this in perspective. You took $50,000 from the general fund to hold meetings to further restrict businesses that are trying to give you money. You're spending money to lose money. That is just, it's sad. And it shows the backward actions of what's going on. And I'm not saying it's you on the board. I don't know who it is. You know, I don't know who's controlling all of these things from behind the scenes. But I can say for sure that as soon as I spoke up at a planning commission a few weeks ago, I was personally attacked at the county level of them trying to say that my property on Rancheria Creek is no longer real property. That was direction given by Drew and Trent Tuthill, that my land would be absorbed by my neighbors who are the ones opposing my cannabis license. Very interestingly convenient, you know? But like, when are we going to start supporting the tax-paying businesses of this county instead of spending all the money that they bring in to shut them down? And it seems very backwards that the program dollars are once again being used to harm the program participants. You are weaponizing the general plan that we paid for against us. Hopefully sometime soon, you guys can start to support us. And agriculture was like stricken from the Trinity Center community plan. I don't know why that happened. I hope you can really like look at that. I know my time is up, but our community supports agriculture.
Thank you very much.
I hope it can be in there.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else on Zoom?
Adrian Keys.
Hey, thank you, Chair, Supervisor, staff, Adrian Keys from Hayfork. It looks like I'm going to be traveling during these community meetings, so I will not be able to attend. And so that's kind of a drag. I'll submit comments, written comments or something. But kind of in light of that, I was asked by a resident of Junction City to also bring up the fact that cannabis isn't mentioned at all in their community plan, even though from what I was told by this resident, it was discussed kind of at length. So we're hoping to see that there, especially because it is inferred that the community plans will be used to somehow inform future overlay zones. And I think that that's a topic that, because the way overlay zones have been used historically, in the county, is just, is a pretty hard pill to swallow. That there's this meeting that the community plans would ultimately be used to create overlay zones. So that, I think that's good to clear up some of that stuff and express how that's going to be used. I'm personally an advocate for a uniform and equitable zoning code and code of ordinances, and not a really huge fan of overlays unless there really are some specific land use related elements that necessitate them. And if, like, much like Ms. Wright was saying, that if cannabis cultivation were to be prohibited due to some environmental factor, then I would have to imagine that other similar activities, non-cannabis activities, would also have to be prohibited. So it's something to really think about there before we move forward with any further opt-out type zones. I'm very happy to see that the 4 recommendations for these community meetings, and I think they do relatively well encapsulate the rest of the topics that were, so difficult to discuss at last PC. And I'm very grateful to hear that we'll be having more public supervisors type meetings to dig into those topics, because I think there are alternative solutions that have not been addressed, that had been brought up in the past and have never managed to get to the dais. Similar, like the zoning matrix, tying cultivation area to parcel size is a valid concept, and tying cultivation licensing to a use permit, as is suggested in the PC backup material. I'm not an expert in this, but if that's what it takes to get to make sure that our licenses and our land use entitlements are intact and clear and well-defined and protected, and then new cultivation would necessitate use permits also, that adds a discretionary element that where communities can voice themselves, because we all know that the opt-outs are not like uniformly by consensus developed. I'm going to run out of time here, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Do we have anybody else?
Rhoda?
Rhoda Kane, Trinity Center. I noticed that it says the upcoming meetings are scheduled for the week of September 15th through 19th, and once finalized, will be publicized on the Trinity 2050 website and via the general plan email list. These meetings need way more notice than these 2 options, like maybe published in the newspaper, flyers on local bulletin boards. The 2 options listed above are extremely ineffective in the North Lake area in particular. Newspapers and flyers are significantly more effective. It's almost impossible to get anybody there through just the general plan website. Also, requests for public transportation seem to be obviously missing from the Trinity Center plan. I am also curious why cannabis ordinance updates are being tied in here. It feels to me like this may be inappropriate, especially since so few of our communities have a community plan in this general plan process. If cannabis is agriculture, which it obviously is, and the state and the county have now said so, it does seem like it might be important to discuss this in the general plan process county-wide, considering so many people want to use their property for agriculture. I believe community meetings would be extremely valuable when working on the cannabis ordinance updates, just to keep that in mind. There were some things specific to the Trinity Center general plan, but I'm not sure that's what you're looking for. I think you're just hoping to get ideas of what, but if we wanted something specific, I would have a few questions like, I'm still cannot figure out why North Lake got split and only the Trinity Center South part gets to have a general plan or a community plan and not the rest of North Lake, as we're all one community up here. And why the community services district covers more area than they provide services for. Table 8 of the Trinity Center Community Plan, for example, ED 21, places where it says such as, I'm just hoping we can add things like but not limited to make things more flexible for the future. And then there were some issues I had with conversion of the short-term rentals, but I'll try harder to explain it to the consultants when the next meeting comes up here, because it's not to offset lost income like that. That won't really be very effective because they don't really make any money off their rental houses. They only have them on Airbnb for, I don't know why, but they don't actually rent them out. So, yeah, there's a lot to be talked about at the meetings, but I do think things that affect the county as a whole, like the cannabis ordinance, should be discussed by the county as a whole. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on Zoom?
Ben Kellogg.
Good morning again, Ben Kellogg, Weaverville. We keep talking about we need money. That entails that we need more economic development. Like the other callers stated, I don't understand why we keep singling out cannabis as the ugly stepchild. I don't have a horse in the race other than we need more money. And if cannabis is agriculture, like the county states, then why are we putting more excessive rules on cannabis as agriculture than we do on a pig farm, a steer farm, chickens, anything else? If it's good for 99.9% of agriculture in this county, why isn't it good enough for cannabis? And we need to stop this negative stigma of cannabis. If the county needs help in crafting ordinances and other things, perhaps reaching out to other counties within California, CSAC, perhaps, and see what do they do to make a more equitable way of doing things within Trinity County, and stop demonizing people who want to open up legal businesses within Trinity County. It's legal. You all are acting like it's not still. It's just baffles my mind that you're telling people, I don't want your money because there's some personal inherent bias against cannabis. We're not talking about an illicit drug. We're talking about cannabis. It's legal. It's probably going to stay legal. So I encourage everyone to have a more open mind about bringing economic development into this county. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else on Zoom?
I show no other raised hands.
Bring it back to the board.
Okay, so for clarity, what we're really after here is direction. You got direction from the Planning Commission. You're looking for direction from the board, and that direction will basically go to staff and our consultants about how to use the time when they're in these community meetings that we've just funded. Okay,
Yes.
I just want to make me really clear about what we're being asked. And the short list that you provided of review community vision statements, land use maps, and input on land use priorities, does that kind of encapsulate the main thing that you got out of the Planning Commission discussions as a focus?
That is the 4 topics that they achieved consensus on and a consolidated recommendation to the board, yes.
Okay, I think I only said 3, so what's the 4th?
So I'll read them
Yeah,
again.
please.
Review the community vision statements is number 1.
Okay,
Present the 2050 general plan land use map and review changes within each community specifically focused on village and unclassified zones. 3 is the discussion topic. What land uses would your community like to promote or pursue? And 4 is what types of development would the communities like to see? And specifically in terms of mixed use and dwelling density standards
thanks.
for mixed use or other higher density dwelling developments.
And then what's discovered in those meetings will help drive the greater, deeper discussion of the cannabis land use. Is that?
Or general, land uses generally, if there are specific requests related to any land use, then that will inform, the updates to zoning code and the potential use of an overlay zone to help accomplish the requested land uses if we hear strong opinions from various communities.
Okay.
And so we could approve, just say we like what they said, we could add to it, we could take away from it, whatever we want to do. But you just need to know when we go out there, what do you want us to focus on with these community meetings?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good enough. President Brown?
I have no more questions.
I would agree with Rick and Drew that, we don't want to put the cart in front of the horse in a way. Let's get the input from each community from their community plan. Take that, send that to staff, have them bring us back a recommendation, and we can go from there. That would be my motion.
Well, I think in this case, we're just direction versus emotion, but is that accurate?
ahead.
So my sense is that the direction I think sounds like we're giving is to support the staff recommendation, which is supporting the planning commission recommendation,
Yes,
which I am perfectly fine to support.
as am I.
Yep.
Better said than I.
Okay. Planning commission.
Mostly is. But yes, there's been a couple times today, some people have said a few things better than I, but that is exactly what I'm thinking. Drew, anything else? We're good? Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Chair,
Can we finish this last item up?
Yeah.
And then,
Go to closed
and
session?
then
We will.
we'll be,
There we go.
No, I'm ready to move on to E5.
yeah.
I'm ready to. We're good.
Okay.
All right, that's where we're going. County Administrative Office, approve a budget adjustment for 24-25 for CDBG grants. Department 1970, increasing transfers by $136,100. Approve a budget adjustment for 24-25 for contributions to others. Department 1990, increasing transfers out by $136,100. And approve a budget adjustment for 24-25 for general fund contingency. Department 9901, decreasing provisions for contingency by $136,100.
Chair, I'll introduce this one, and Susie can take all the hard questions. So, is what we're trying to do here is get rid of some negative debt that we've been paying negative interest on in the old CDBG grants department. So the numbers there you see there of that 136,000, we've been carrying that as negative cash, if you will, negative debt, and then therefore every year we've been paying negative interest on that to the tune of a little over $5,000 a time. We're trying to get rid of that. We have some available contingency funds at the end of this fiscal year when we've trued everything up. And our desire and ask is to use some of those contingency funds, wipe out this negative debt. So then in future years, this board will have a little bit more discretionary fund, although not a lot, but it's a little bit, and all that adds up to then go and do something else with, other than paying negative interest, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Understood. Does the board have any questions on that?
No, my questions were answered outside the meeting.
Do we have any public comment in the room? On Zoom?
I show no raised hands.
Bring it back to the board for a motion.
Move to approve as presented?
I'll second.
Supervisor Gogan,
Aye.
Supervisor Lutweiler,
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield,
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
We will now move into
Oh, closed session right up.
the
Report out from last closed
report out
session.
from last two. We had two matters on closed session 2 weeks back, and direction was given on both of those. We will now move into closed session.
Adjourn. We're adjourned.
I just gotta read it
Yeah.
first.
We're almost adjourned.
Oh,
Almost.
Do you want to take over now?
no, I was just thinking out loud.
At least you're
Supervisor
thinking.
Rogan.
All right, we're moving to closed session. G1, Government Code Section. What do we,
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought that was trying to correct me. Government G1, Government Code. Elizabeth Hamilton, Employee Organization, IHSS. Number 2, Government Code Section 54954.5B, real property negotiations. Property is located at 35 Arbuckle Court. Agency negotiations, Liz Hamilton, Margaret Long, and Trent Tuthill. Negotiation parties, John Palandini. Under negotiation, price and terms of lease.
I'm not sure you're reading the right one.
What's that?
Last one.
No. My
Right
fault.
here.
I got it. God. Maybe you should have done it, Heidi. Sorry about that, my mistake. Direction was given to staff for those two. F1, Government Code, Section 545. 54954.5B, real estate negotiations property, 450 Oregon Street. Agency negotiators, Trent Tuthill, under negotiations, price and terms of escrow. F2, Government Code Section 54954.5C, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. Number of cases, 3. National prescription opiate litigation, case number 117MD02804 DAP, pending in the U.S. District Court of the Northern District of Ohio, Purdue Pharma, LP, et al. This case number 19-23649, pending in the United States Bankruptcy Court, Southern District of New York. State of Joshua Garbolt, Stacy Palmer, and Brian Garbolt versus Trinity County, case number 22401275 DMZ. And number 3, Government Code Section 54954.5F, labor negotiations. County's designated representatives, Margaret Long, Leah DeCias, Elizabeth Hamilton, and Susie Hawkins. Employee Organization, IHSS, and Probation Peace Officers Association. Do we have any public comment in the room? Don't say a word. On Zoom?
Trinity Alps Canacraft.
Okay, it wouldn't let me unmute, sorry. I'm just gonna broadly, because you guys are talking about lawsuits, and everybody's gonna hate me that I say this, but like, if you guys continue to just like not support the cannabis industry and continue these illegal actions, you're setting the county up for class action lawsuits. And it's not good for anybody. Try to have some
Okay, thank
progress
you.
forward.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comment. Okay.
Ben Kellogg.
Ben Kellogg, Weaverville. So a couple things. Everyone talks about how we have no money, but we continue to get sued. So perhaps the county, and I'm being completely serious about this, perhaps we need to go out to an outside vendor and do some retraining, whether it's department heads, board of supervisors, whoever it is, on how not to get sued. Because we're spending a lot of money on settlements, deductibles, things like that. And that money could realistically go to our county, whether it's the sheriff's department, whether it's roads, things like that. It's just gotten to a point where, what are we all doing here? It seems like the county is more reactive when it comes to things. It takes the county to be sued for change to happen. And realistically, that shouldn't happen. And people are tired of it. Thank you.
Thank you. We are adjourned. We are adjourned.
Is that it, Shan? Okay, good.